to the Djinn's treasure. I have been doing a good job lately for posting once a week, although my video for last week was kind of a bang up job, kind of a last minute. I didn't even have an intro and outro theme with the carpet ride and all that stuff. I'll probably do that for this video because even though I did do that video last week, it got not a lot of hits, not a lot of views, not a lot of watch time hours. And that's what I'm going for. I'm trying to get this channel monetized, you know what I'm saying? So today we have a beautiful specimen of Lapis. It's a cabochon, one of the better cuts that I've ever worked with. And we're gonna get this wrapped in some copper wire. I have some 20 gauge copper wire and some 26 gauge copper wire. We're gonna do a combination of both those gauges of copper wire. And then of course I have my clips, my flats, and my fingers. Those are my nicknames for each of these three tools, these pliers. Now let's get into it. So the first thing we do is we grab our spool of 20 gauge copper wire and we're gonna twist off quite a lot of length. In fact, you're gonna be able to, I'm gonna have to take it off screen, off camera, out of your peripherals. Oh, and speaking of, let me give a little more attention to the screen here so that we're not lopsided. I think my handheld tripod thing for my phone it's getting old now. It's about 5 years old and the legs are getting a little weak. So that's what's happening there. Anyways, looks okay for now. So I'm gonna pull, you can see off screen where the other end of this wire is leading. This is about a full wingspan length of copper wire. And then once I get that full wingspan, I'm gonna clip off that full length. And then the first thing I do is kind of stretch out the wire, massage it so it's kind of straightened out. And then the second thing I'll do is take the two tip ends, kiss them together, and then the idea is to zip tie. Oh, I got my pliers caught in there. Zip tie all the way down to the bottom where I find this loop. And I do this in all my videos, so if you're like, I can't tell what's going on, I recommend trying out one of my other videos. I've got hundreds of them, and they're all showing this same technique. This is the same technique that I start out with for pretty much all of my wire-wrapped pendant videos. This next step is where it might be a little different. Some of my videos include this, some of my videos take a step in a different direction from here, but what we're gonna do with this loop is take our clips and clip it, just like you heard. You heard that little snap? That snap is splitting this wire into two wires, two equal in length wires. That was the whole point of kissing them together, kissing the tips together, and then finding that loop, is that way it's a sure way to make sure that your wires are gonna be the same length as one another. One thing I like to do after I clip it is find those little angles, if there's any sharp angles, and just kind of pinch down on them to straighten them out, as you see I did there. And now you can see I've kissed all four tips together once again, and I'm gonna zip tie, and you guessed it, I'm gonna do the exact same thing. I'm gonna clip, only this time I'm clipping two of those loops together. Well, I'm not clipping them together. I'm clipping them together so that they're gonna be apart. Kind of worded that trickily. Next, we're just gonna eyeball about to be what's the middle length here. It doesn't have to be precise. What's important is that we want to make sure that all four of our wires maintain like a parallel, and that they're all flat like this, and that none of them are crossing over like that. We want to make sure that they're all flat. And then from there, we'll set that down. And this is where we get a little bit of that 20 gauge, or apologies, the 26 gauge length involved. Not a lot. You really, you just peel off a little bit, you know, just not even a hand's length, unless you have tiny hands. So then we're gonna pick back up where we left off here with those 20 gauge wires, realigning them so that they're all nice and straight together. And then very carefully, we're gonna lay this 26 gauge wire across and wrap it around. So you can see that's the one wire, and it's wrapped around behind and then comes back out this side here. And we're gonna slide that together so that there's no gap, right? So now you can see that's all one wire, and it's just wrapped around all 4 of these wires one time. We'll go ahead and wrap it around one more time. And very carefully, want to make sure that these coils that are coiling around are nice and flat and straight and tight and all the good stuff as we coil along. And I would say it doesn't really matter how many coils. You can do more if you want, or I would say minimum. So that right there is about 6 coils, and I would say, yeah, probably 6 is the minimum that you want. You want a good amount. And then I also, as you saw, I took my flats there and just pinched down on the coiled portion, and that flattened the coils, but it also, as you see, it separated those gaps. So with my fingers, I'm just gonna push those gaps together, and then I'm gonna tug on both ends to kind of pull and tighten that wire so it's a little bit more flat and straight. That way, this time when I stamp down with the flats, you can see how there's not so much gappage this time. So with the remaining wire, you can go ahead and clip it off. Now the way that I clip it, if this is going to be the show side, then this is going to be the back side over here, and it's the back side where I want to clip the tip ends of my wire. So I always strategically leave like a little nub right there, and as well I'll do a little nub on the other end as well. And then the idea is that that folds over to the back side, not the show side, right? And then I'll just go and use my flats to kind of stamp that down once again. And then I'll do the same thing with this tip end here. Just kind of work it over to that back side, and then stamp it down flat. There we go. And now we have this little section here where all 4 of these 20 gauge wires are attached together using that little wrap job. So from there, we're actually gonna split these wires up so that the bottom 2, or if we held it like this, the right 2 and the left 2 are gonna be split from one another. And we'll do that on both sides of where the 26 gauge wire has attached all 4 wires. So it creates, I wish I knew the name of this shape, but it's kind of like an X or like a cross. But these wires not really crossing, because it's these 2 are not these 2. These 2 are these 2, and these 2 are these 2. So they're not actually crossing, even though it looks kind of like a cross. And so what we're gonna do with this is we're gonna lay it down just like so. And if you notice, the specific shape of this stone is like triangular shape. So I would say that this particular style of wire wrap is gonna be for a triangular shape. So here's some examples of other stones. So this one is completely flat, right? But it still has that triangular shape. As well, you have this one. So this style of wrap is going to be specific for stones that have this shape. Now, you might be able to get away with something like this, although this one is a lot more elongated. It's a lot more tall. And I'll show you this one. This one is already wrapped, and this is a different style of wrap, so I don't want to confuse you too much, but you can see this is more of a teardrop shape. So you could potentially get away with using this style of wrap with a teardrop shape as opposed to a triangular shape, but I really encourage you to stick with this shape. It's a very common shape, so it's easy enough to come by. Ooh, I found another box of gems right here. So let's look through. So this one is another of the teardrop shape where potentially you could do the same wrap for a stone in this shape. But for sake of demonstration, we're just gonna stick with our Lapis Lazuli today. And we're gonna lay this, section that is attached together. We're gonna lay that. Remember, this is the face side, and then the other side is the back side. So we're gonna make sure that the back side is the one that is touching the stone. And then very carefully, we're just gonna lay that right there in the center of the stone of the bottom, right? And then so you're gonna allow these two wires to come up, and then you can pinch down. You see how my thumb is kind of pinching or wedging the wire. The wire is wedged between my thumb and the stone itself. So we're gonna do that and then bend some angle. So when I remove my thumb, you can see that it's created that angle. And the idea is that we want to keep this kind of geometric or symmetric. So the idea is that this length is going to match this length. Now you can see I kind of eyeballed that, and it's not precise, and that's okay. In fact, that's kind of my own personal style, is like gives it that touch of organicness. That's the imperfection, the perfectly imperfected natural look. And so as you can see, I did these two angles on the top here. I'm going to do the same thing on the bottom. And so there we go. We have one angle, and then I pinch down right here, and then I'm just bending both of those wires simultaneously. You do want to make sure that if you're bending these wires, you're bending both of them at the same time, because if you try to do it one at a time, chances are how they've stayed together like this, if you do them one at a time, you have a greater chance of messing that up, where these two are nice and aligned with one another. I don't even want to show you what it would look like if you did not do that. So now we get our stone, and carefully, in fact, because we have it where these are overlapping each other, the ends of these wires, I'm actually going to realign them so that they are not crossing each other again. So what we're going to do is the same technique. We pinch down here, and then we just bend up, only we're not going to bend so dramatically. So you can see this is more of a sharp angle up here, and then this is down here is where it widens out. It still has another angle to like course correct, but it's not as sharp of an angle, just like here. So the idea is that we have these wires, they're no longer crossing one another, they're more straight. Straight's not the right word, but they're not crossing each other. That's the point. We're going to do the same thing over on the other end here by bending some angles. So now you see it's created kind of these two diamond shapes, or if you throw it together, it's kind of like a bow shape. And then from there, you'll be ready to place your stone in the middle. And this is where it could be a little tricky, especially depending on the type of, the shape of the stone that you have, because it can get, the stone can be like, especially if it's smooth, like you see how this one has a lot of like edges and angles on it. If your stone is more rounded, it's going to be more difficult. So just brace for that. Prepare yourself for that. And the idea is, you see how it comes around and back together, these two or these four 20 gauge wires. The idea is that I'm going to take off some more of this 26 gauge and do the same thing that I did here, attach more right here, and then on the same side, or on the other side, I'll do the same thing over here. So let me show you what that looks like. We're gonna set our stone down for a minute and then just focus on one side at a time. I'll clip off some more wire. Again, you don't need a lot. I used even less this time, you know, like less than a finger's length even. The amount of wire is not so important. I will say, like, you definitely want to not underestimate the amount of wire that you need, but you really don't need a lot, okay? So take as much as you feel comfortable with. You know, it's always better. The number one rule of wire wrapping is to overestimate the amount of wire that you need, but for this specific example, you really don't need a lot. So don't be afraid to try to cut it down. And also too, is that if you end up cutting it too short for whatever reason, you could always just take it off. You know, you didn't use a lot of wire, so what you do is if it's not enough wire, you just remove it and then try again with adding a little bit more length, because you really didn't use a lot. You're not missing out on much, or you're not wasting much, I should say. So you see how I've kind of just done a few more coils there. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We'll stop with 5, but I do, if I'm stopping with 5 here, when I do this side, I want to do 5. I want to keep that symmetrical. So we'll clip off our excess. Remember to leave a little nub there, and that nub just gets pinched down and flattened. And then we'll do the same thing with this side. There's that little nub, right? And we're just gonna pinch it over and then flatten it on the other side. And then just with my fingers one more time, I'll slide everything together and then pinch that flat. All right, so now we've got the one side, and you notice that this, where I want this, is supposed to be over here, and it's going to slide out. That's fine. Fine for now, I'll say. So I'll tuck it in there, and then as I work on this side, chances are that might slide out a little bit. I'll just have to readjust it. You want to keep it down here before you begin the next step with that. But for now, we're going to focus on these two. And if you notice, another thing that I kind of didn't mention but is important, the angles, they bent in such a way and at such an angle that the two, by the time these two angles are bent, these two, or these four, are all lined up with each other once again. So sometimes you'll bend and this angle will be like too sharp or something, and it will throw this off. So let me show you an example of that. So like if I bent this and then I bent that and then I tried to line them up, you see how, look, this angle comes before that angle. So if that's the case for you, just go ahead and open up that angle a little bit and do your best to have them more or less aligned. The other thing too I noticed is you see how these two come down and then they curve up and then they go out. You want to make sure that if this one on top starts out on top over here, it finishes on top over here, as opposed to it looks like stubbornly this wire wants to get crossed. So you see how right there it's the bottom wire, and then by the time it gets over here, that bottom wire ends up being the top wire. Don't let that happen. You want to make sure the top remains the top and the bottom remains the bottom, and that there's no crisscross happening. It's just one of those things that is in aesthetics, and will look ugly, will look imperfect. Although, you know, maybe I won't call it ugly, I won't call it imperfect. Sometimes maybe that's your intentionality, is to have some kind of imperfect style, and that's okay too, if that's what you want to do. That's not what we're doing here today though. But if you want to do that at home, nobody's stopping you. So once again, pinched off just a little bit of wire. I added a little bit more this time, which is not necessary, but it's fine. So this wire is like the length of an entire finger, whereas the other one was a little bit shorter, and the one before that was even longer. And so it just goes to show you that you don't need to be precise with the amount of length of wire that you're using. So as you can see, I'm just coiling along, and I'm keeping in mind that I want to do 5 coils total. So I've completed, this would be 3, 4, and then 5 just came around there. And then I'll smash this all together, keep it flat, just to see where the gaps are coming. So you see how that last one just kind of shot out and broke with a little gap between the rest of the 4 coils there. That's because I wasn't necessarily pulling tight enough. That happens sometimes. You just gotta you just give the wire a little tug and then realign it. And sometimes you have to do this multiple times. Once you realign it, then you smash it flat again, and then check the backside. You see how there's gaps. So we want to try to avoid those gaps if we can. Just push those in, and then now that looks pretty good. We're ready to clip off the excess. Once again, keeping in mind that we want to leave a nub on both ends, and that nub is the part that gets tucked in the backside. So that way there's no tip ends that are exposed, because those potentially become the pokey tips, and nobody likes pokey jewelry. Pokey jewelry is not fun. It's not fun to wear. It's not fun to make. I mean, I don't know if it's fun to make, but it's not fun to make knowing that you're gonna make somebody feel unpleasant with the poking and the irritation. The intention behind jewelry, one of the intentions I will say, is for the person that is going to be wearing the jewelry, that they're going to be feeling good, better, enhanced. So you don't want to take away that enhancement by giving them some product that's not well built, and maybe potentially they'll just never even wear it. They'll get it and they'll be disappointed, and then they'll never even wear it. All right, so now I've got my two strapped ends, and then I've got the bottom strap end, right, where we started. Now we're gonna drop our crystal back in, and now it's looking like a very secure diaper. And I mean, it just, to me, it looks kind of like a diaper, which is funny, but it's not a diaper. I'm just saying, because there's, you know, one leg comes out here and one leg comes out here. Anyways, it's not a diaper, it's a frame. And you notice that as I try to bring it over together up the top, we're having some trouble because these wires are getting crossed. So the way to deal with that is to just bend these wires outwards, making sure that they don't get crossed. They're all flat still. The one on the far right is on the far right. The one on the far left is on the far left. I'm talking about these guys, of course, so here we'll get a better look. So you can see far right, middle, far right, and nothing's getting crossed. And we'll do that same thing over here. So you see all these wires are flat and parallel, and then we're just gonna bend an angle. So now that we've bent those two angles, we can bring these together a little bit more easily. And then in fact, I even want to, the idea is, you see how I've wrapped it so that these wires come over the front of the crystal, and then these come around the back side, and then they switch sides, coming together at that angle. So that is by design. And what we're gonna do is pinch down on this kind of diamond shape that I've created in the middle there and create a wrap. So this wrap is almost secured, right? My concern is because this is the tip end here, potentially the crystal could shoot out this side, or if we flipped it around the back side, potentially it could slip out this back side, this way here. So we want to avoid that. And in order to avoid that, what I'm going to do is take my flats, pinch this down all together, and then just bring it all the way down like that. So now we've kind of closed this door. The crystal is not going to be sliding through because this is kind of like the latch that's holding everything in place. And we're just going to bring these wires up like that, creating this sexy spiral, right? And then we're going to bring these wires up around on the underneath side. So now these wires that we've brought on the underneath side, that's what we're going to turn into our necklace loop. So the way to do a necklace loop, I want to make sure that these are kind of bent out of the way, right? So with these that are going to become the loop, and I only chose them to become the loop just because the way that these come out, they're a little bit more on the side, whereas because it's underneath, when these come out, they're more centered and aligned with the top of the crystal. That's the reason why I chose these two. So for you at home, just choose the ones whatever ones are more aligned with the top. So what I'm doing is massaging the wire. I really want to make sure that they're straight and that they don't cross each other for this next part. What I'm going to do is take the rounded, now I've have my rounded finger pliers. I call them the fingers because they're round. I'll pinch down right about here and then bend the wire over, right? So you see how it's creating like an arc. And then I'll actually roll the pliers to do the finish. And I actually wanted these to come around not on this side, but on this side of the crystal. So I'm gonna remove the pliers and then redo that, bringing them over here, making sure that none of them get crossed. They're all flat, none of them get crossed. And then I'll put my pliers back in there and then kind of roll the pliers. So now what I've done is created this roller coaster loop to loop. Not my best loop to loop, but that's okay. And then with these, so we now have these wires. Remember, they came out and they created that sexy spiral. They're now going to come around. Go ahead and take your thumb and press it down so that those wires don't bend open. We want to make sure that they stay tucked in, right? That's why I'm pressing down on them. And then they are going to come around and just create like a little scarf, right? If this is like you think of it as like a stick figure head, or like this loop to loop as the head, and then the crystal is the body. Well, between the head and the body is the neck, and we're just gonna wrap a scarf around that neck, right? And now we have almost completed everything. We want to do some kind of a design on the front end here because we still have that. We've secured with this loop here, we've secured that the stone is not going to pop out the back. But on the front side now, we need to do some kind of a design because you see how the top tip of the crystal right there is still poking out. So we want to do something to secure that. One thing I can do is just do another loop around with the scarf and keep on wrapping until it covers that tip end, which I think that's what I'll do. I'm gonna clip here for these wires because they've done their part. Now we don't need the rest of that. In fact, actually, if you have a matching stone at home, these scrap wires are great for, like, if you had if I had some Lapis Lazuli beads, I could potentially make these into like some matching set earrings. So you have a matching set of 2 earrings and the necklace pendant. But that only works if you have kind of a similar stone. But using beadwork is how I do a lot of my earrings. Anyways, I'm getting sidetracked telling you something as I'm doing work. So if you notice, I pinched down there and created this little hook. And we're just gonna pinch down and keep rolling that hook into like the beginnings of a spiral. And I'm gonna do that with each one of these 4. So you see how I've done 2 there, and then I'll do 1 more coming this way. And then this one I'm actually gonna bend out the other way just for funsies, just to see. I don't really do that as a style, but I wanna see what it looks like, so I'm experimenting. So you see how up top here we have 1, 2, 3, 4. These are the scarf wires, and now we're going to continue to wrap the scarf around. So here's the beginning. 1, 2, 3, 4 up here. That's the beginning of the scarf. Now the next time we're wrapping around, we're going to wrap right underneath where we've wrapped once before. And let's see if we have enough length. It looks like we have enough length of wire. Again, we want to make sure that these wires stay straight with one another, right? And they're not crossing. We're gonna go ahead and wrap around once more even. And I might even, look at that, I'm gonna tuck it under this spiral, so that sexy spiral that we created, it's gonna stay intact and not gonna get covered up. And I'm just gonna go ahead and cover up all of these little hook spirals. So they're actually not even gonna be exposed. They're not even gonna be show. And then I'll clip off the rest of that wire. Now these are probably going to be scrap wires. They're a little bit too short to become earrings, unlike these guys. Look at that nice length of that wire. You could do a lot of things with that wire, a lot of things. So now I'm going to take, and I'm going to try to do it 2 at a time, just because they're kind of lined up that way. They're nice and stuck together. So I'm pinch with the tip of the pliers to the tip of the wires, grabbing 2 wires at a time, and then curl these little hooks. Now you see that one hook that's hanging out right there. So the idea is that we're going to take these hooks and kind of grapple them in there, and so they're actually going to reach around the entire wire. And then you see, watch closely. You see how I pinch down and then I roll and then I release my grip and then I bring it back over and then I pinch down, and that's like I call it the cranking method, because it's kind of like a wrench, like you're working it back and forth like that. So I'll show you once again. So pinch down, pinch, and then I curl, and then I release my pliers, and then I roll back up top, and then pinch, and then I'll curl one more time. And that's how I create like a nice hook or setup for a spiral. Now these guys, they're looking good, but they need to be tucked in, especially that one low-hanging tip guy. So pinch down, roll, and now it's ready to get tucked in. And usually when I'm tucking in, I'll use a combination of my flats. So you see how these hooks are coming around, but they're really protruding. This is the end of the crystal right here, and then these guys are creating a bulge on top of the crystal, and I don't want that bulge. I want these guys to all behave and get tucked in. So that's the idea with the flats, is to just kind of squish them so they get tucked in underneath all of that. And just however it feels good to you to tuck those in, that's up to you. The goal is the same, no less. All right, so that's, I'm gonna call that the backside actually, because I don't like that. It's not as showy as the other side, whereas this one is a little bit more elegant. So I'll call this to be the front side now. We've switched it up, and this will be the backside. I'm not entirely satisfied with the way that these guys are. They're hooked in, they're latched in there, they're not gonna get caught on anything, but they are kind of still hanging out a little bit. And that's because I normally work with the different flats. I have a flats that gets more narrow at the end, whereas this one just kind of maintains its width the whole way through. So I gotta dig around and find that specific set of flats that I like to work with. I would say that's more of a finisher than the pair of flats that I have before you today. All right, so those are, it's looking a little bit better, more tucked in. All right, and that is how you do it. And I'm looking, final examination, I'm seeing that these two up top on the right are taller than these two on the left. So what I'll do is I'll stick my finger pliers back in there one more time, and then just kind of pinch, and just kind of help these guys realign with one another so that they're all at the same height. It didn't do it perfectly, but it's a lot better than how it was looking before. And now you are ready to throw on your lace loops. So that is how you do your triangular wrap. And if you want, you can make some final adjustments to make sure that these wires coming over the top, they're not covering up too much. You want as much of the stone to show as possible. That's the idea. That's the whole philosophy of elegant designs and jewelry, is to have, you're not trying to cover up the stone. Less is more, right? So it's a little bit wonky. I can see that it curves a little bit slightly to the left side, but all in all, this is a pretty decent wrap. And it will certainly impress your friends at work or at your book club or your next PTA meeting, whatever you're doing. Show your dog. I'm sure your dog will love you regardless. And that's it. That's that. Have a beautiful rest of your day. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week.